Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. This is one of those in the making for some time, and I'm so excited that we're getting to have this conversation. Before we dive into all the good stuff, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I'm glad to be here with you today after finally we've managed to get the day in. So it's great. So hi everybody, my name's Kelly Cookson and my business is Cheer Up Marketing. So I'm a marketer by trade. I've actually been working in marketing for 15 years now. And I've been running this business since January 2020. So coming up to my fourth year by the time you'll be listening to this recording. So I launched my business just before a global pandemic, which was brilliant timing. Of course, we didn't know that was coming. But luckily, because I'm in marketing, I managed to weather the storm okay. I think marketing is one of those skills that everybody needs if they haven't got it. So my business has really grown pretty rapidly since I set up the business. So marketing is my zone of genius. In particular, I love email marketing, which I think we'll probably get to in this podcast because it's part of one of my smart marketing strategies. So I've been doing this business for about 4 years now, and I managed to hit a six-figure turnover working just 20 hours a week. So that's probably what we're going to talk about as well. So
I
I help
know.
service-based businesses mainly, bring in some leads and sales. And I have a 6-year-old daughter, which is important to mention because my business really is built around mum life, doing the school runs and trying to take as much school holidays off as possible. So
I
that's
know.
me.
Amazing. And I think, a couple of those things you mentioned, we're definitely going to dive into today because everybody's ears just pricked up and go, oh gosh, that is interesting. I want to know about that. But before we dive into all of those good stuff, why did you decide to start your own business in 2020? And what did that
Mhm.
kind of look like for you to make that decision?
Well, it was a sort of a slow burn running up to it. I'll start by saying I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to run my own business. Before I had my daughter, I was just going to climb the corporate ladder and hopefully become head of marketing or marketing director in some organization somewhere. Like that was what I was going to do. But when I had my daughter, obviously everything changed, and I suddenly realized that, well, I don't want to put her in childcare full time. Like maybe climbing that corporate ladder wasn't then aligned with like mum life and everything. I just wanted to be with her all the time. So I kind of started side hustling a little bit, a lot on the side, like secretly. So my boss didn't know I was doing it. Sorry if he's listening. But I started doing a little bit of freelance marketing work, and I realized that actually this was a really easy way for me to make some extra income. So I started doing that in the April of 2019 when my daughter had just turned 2. And by the summer, I was thinking, actually, I could probably do this as my real job and fairly easily match my part-time salary. At that point, I was only working 3 days a week after going back from maternity leave. So I floated the idea with like friends and family and my husband, and they were all mega supportive of it. So by the time November 2019 rolled around, I came clean to my boss and my co-workers and said, look, I'm actually going to do this full time from January. So I'm handing in my notice. So it all kind of happened really just because of becoming a mum. Like I wasn't interested otherwise in running my own business. I feel like the stars aligned and I got these clients on the side. And then as soon as I started marketing myself from the January 2020, I was instantly making the money that I was making prior to that in my corporate role. So that ticked a big box for me. That's all I wanted to do was match my part-time prorated salary and just skip off into the sunset with my 2-year-old. And then I got ambitious. So that's how I started.
Oh my gosh, I love your story. And isn't it funny? We never know what the future holds for us. We have this idea of something, but then sometimes it just grows into something so much bigger than we ever could have imagined. And it's still a
Yeah.
journey. I mean, you're still on this journey. Heavens know what
Yeah.
next year could bring.
I know. I'm only 4 years in, and it's just, I mean, where I am now is absolutely bananas. If you told me back in 2019 that at this point today, end of 2023, that would have built the business that looks how it is, I would have a book out, I'll be doing in-person events and running all these online groups and have all of these amazing clients all over the world, it would have blown my tiny mind because that wasn't my ambition. It's
Yeah.
only when you get into entrepreneurship, I think, that you realize that really the sky is the limit for what you can achieve. So, yeah, it's definitely been an unexpected but exciting ride so far.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very intrigued. I want to learn more about the processes and what it is that you've done in order to turn your business around so quickly, because obviously
Hmm.
you've made six figures,
Yeah.
so quickly over the course of time. One of the things that you mentioned quite a few times is that what you've created is a smart marketing strategy.
Hmm.
So you've used this yourself in order to get to six figures, but tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about what is the smart marketing strategy and what are some of the benefits to everybody listening for implementing something like this?
Okay, great question. And I'm so glad you've asked. And also, I'd like to say that I do feel spoiled that my background is in marketing. So I kind of had a head start against other entrepreneurs or business owners who do not come from a marketing background. So for me, it was like, oh, of course, I need a marketing strategy and a, content marketing plan and my messaging and my ideal client, all this stuff sorted. And it was what I'd already been doing in my corporate life anyway. So for me, it was relatively easy. But I think the most important thing to impart to non-marketers around a smart marketing strategy is having a reason for everything that you do with your marketing. So there's no faffing around with my marketing strategy. I'm not hopping on a trend like threads or doing lots of those dancing around reels on Instagram, that kind of thing. Everything that I do, and I recommend that other people do this too, is for a reason. So with my marketing plan, I'm looking at where we're at in a particular day, week, month, quarter, and the stuff that I'm promoting or the things that I'm talking about in my emails, in my blogs, on my social media, all has a purpose. It all links into something that I'm selling. So it's always focused on revenue generating tasks. There's nothing that's created or marketed or put out on socials or on my website that's not there for a reason. It's all geared up to what are my goals, like revenue goals, and working backwards from that and key dates. What am I talking about in my marketing and why? So that's it with the like really in a nutshell. It sounds dead simple. And honestly, it kind of is because I haven't got time to mess around and neither do you. So that's how I tend to run the marketing strategy. Why am I doing this now? How is it going to help me to reach my goals in terms of the money that I need to make?
Yeah. And I think it's so important what you're sharing there because we're in the new year now when everybody is listening to this. We're all thinking about the year ahead. And this is where
Mm-hmm.
everybody's talking about you got to plan your goals, you got to plan for the year ahead. And we kind of just go like, yeah, it's okay. I'll just go with the flow and see where it takes me. But I
Yeah.
think with what you're sharing, it makes so much sense because it's not about just goal planning and deciding what is it that you want to do in this
Mm-hmm.
next coming year. It's about that marketing.
Yeah.
The goal is what is it that you want to achieve? In other words,
Mm-hmm.
obviously financially or personally or business wise, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the two
But
link together as well, for
and they
sure.
link together,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But then also look at the marketing. What is the marketing going to look like for this year in order to achieve something similar?
Yeah.
Um, and again, it just makes me think because, one of the things that I love to do during November, December times every year is sit down and just have a big chart and just do a brain dump on it and
Yeah,
just plan out
exactly.
what are the things that I want to do next year that excites me and then calculate all the marketing that's going to go through that. So I
And the
love
best
the
thing
way you've
about
put it out.
Cool. I was going to say the best thing about doing that is I don't know if you have this or if your listeners do, but I've got so many ideas. Like
Oh
running
gosh,
your own
yes.
business, there are so many different things you could create, like offers wise or what you want to sell or clients that you want to work with. And if you're thinking about, reducing working hours or being really streamlined, being really smart with your marketing, like for me, I work school hours mostly. So like a 20-hour week, that's what I have, the time to do it in. And when I start to think about everything that I could create for the year ahead and start to actually put that down on a physical calendar, like a wall planner, and then into Asana in my Google Calendar, I realize I haven't got time to do all of this. So it also makes me become really streamlined
Yeah.
and disciplined and think, well, if I'm doing X amount of one-to-one clients in that quarter, or, I have things like group programs and a mastermind and now a content marketing subscription membership as well. So thinking about all of the promo phases for those different offers and where they all fit into each other, there isn't actually a lot of time for any extra stuff because it's just me and my VA and my business manager at the minute. So I haven't got a big team to deliver all this stuff. So I think mapping it all out and working out where the money's coming from is a good exercise because then you've got something to work towards, but it also stops you from creating loads of things that you haven't actually got time to deliver.
Yeah. And also it stops you from the shiny object syndrome, which I know
Yeah.
a
I mean, I still
lot of
have
us
that,
experience.
but I have to rein
But
it
it
in
keeps you more
sometimes.
focused. It makes you realize, like, oh, this is amazing, this new thing. Hold on a minute. Do I really need this? Does it fit
Yeah.
into
Does it
what
fit
I'm
in?
doing? Let me sit back, think about it a little bit, rather than just going and getting it, which most of us do. And that's
Yeah.
okay. But
Hmm.
obviously, then you just end up with a whole bunch of stuff and you feel overwhelmed. And I
Yeah.
do believe in simplicity, simplifying things for yourself. One of the
Absolutely.
other things that you mentioned, is, and I said it before as well, is how quickly you've reached six figures within your
Hmm.
business. And I mentioned it before, for most people thinking about it, who, no matter where they're in their business, if they haven't gotten to that point yet in their business, it's like a pie in the sky. It's like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, so glad you got there, but this is something that I don't think I would ever be able
Hmm.
to achieve. How did you reach this figure so quickly within your business?
Oh, great question. And look, for the record, that wasn't even on my radar as something that I wanted to do. Like in the beginning, I just wanted to be able to pay myself what I was earning in my part-time job, and that was fine. And then, like I said, I got ambitious, but ambitious in a good way, I think. So, the more I kind of networked online, and it's a real thing in the online world, isn't it? 10K months and hit six figures. Well, I suddenly saw how actually possible that might be for me. And to get me there were a few things. So I'll just pull out some that were most important, I think, and pivotal to me. Firstly, it was around getting to do it with the speed, was getting the mentorship or filling in my knowledge gaps, because there were various things that I didn't know that I didn't even know. So, one of the ways to bring in more money more quickly is different revenue streams. And one of the ways that I managed to do that was creating an online course. So instead of delivering marketing strategy for clients one-to-one, I would teach other entrepreneurs and business owners how to do various aspects of their marketing. So I had an email marketing program that year when I hit six figures. So there was that. Now, I didn't know how to create an online program. I could have Googled it, but what I actually did was invested in a course on how to create an online course, which is one of those things, isn't it? But that definitely sped stuff along. And I've always had a coach or a mentor or been part of a business mastermind to get advice from other people who are ahead of me. So I've found
Yeah.
that has been really helpful in pushing me forward, showing me what's possible, and giving me some support, because it was just me at my kitchen table for the first 18 months on a secondhand laptop that I bought from my old job for 50 quid when I handed in my notice, because I didn't have a laptop of my own. Um, so it was just me, and I felt like I needed that support network and some
Yeah.
expert advice to then be able to take my business to the next level, or even understand what the next level was, because I didn't know exactly what was possible. So there was getting some support. And then the second thing was around focusing on those revenue generating tasks that I've mentioned, because, like you said, with shiny object syndrome, there are so many different areas or different things that we can be putting our time and energy into, and our creativity. But actually, if they weren't going to move the needle in terms of the money that was coming in every month and every quarter, I was really strict about not doing stuff and not wasting time. And one of the early hires that I made in my business was my virtual assistant,
Yeah.
because I realized that even though it only takes me 10 minutes to create an invoice, or I don't know, there's like all those little tasks, isn't there, in your business? And I time track everything as well. So if you're listening to this and you don't know where all your time goes, start time tracking. There's an app called Toggle, which you can use. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. But I was tracking my time, and I realized there were lots of little jobs that were adding up to a lot of time, or crucially, like distraction. So taking me away from the revenue generating tasks and building my business. So I got a virtual assistant. And it did feel quite worrying to me, because I wasn't making a load of money then, like margins were really tight. So to invest in somebody and say, come and do 2 hours a week for me, was my retainer, and to commit to that monthly spend felt scary. But as soon as I brought her on board, it freed up so much time in headspace, and we're still working together like 3.5 years later. So yeah, 6 months into it, I outsourced the stuff that I didn't have time to do.
Yeah. And I love those pointers that you're giving out, because, it makes so much sense. And at the same time, for anybody who's listening, it might be very scary to take on
Mm-hmm,
and make those decisions.
for
But it's
sure.
exactly like you said, you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's only got 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
So it's about how you decide, how are you going to spend the time on the things that actually make you money.
Yeah, exactly. And, hiring that virtual assistant, investing in the knowledge or the mentorship or the coaching to actually like upskill myself and move more quickly, I made that money back and that time back like multiple times over. So it was a smart investment for me. The other thing that I want to touch on just around this, like doing things quickly or growing your business quickly, was mindset. So I don't know about you, but in my corporate life, there was no mention of mindset coaching or internal development. I remember some of the top manager, because I was like middle manager level. So the directors would have what's that, like disc assessment thing. They all had
Oh
that. And like,
yes, I remember those.
yeah, but we weren't included in the middle management or anybody below that. So we didn't get any kind of personal development other than like training on how to use a new bit of software or something. So there was no coaching or any kind of internal development given in like my corporate life, which I think is pretty standard. And it's only when I was on my own running this business that I realized that sometimes it was me holding myself back.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lack of knowledge a lot of the time. Once I'd got that knowledge from somebody else, it was actually like me, or not even knowing what was possible. So one of the huge shifts that I made was embodying this mindset of somebody who is successful. And I am a big fan of affirmation. So I swear I spoke a six-figure business into reality by telling myself every day out loud, I run a six-figure business and it's easy and I enjoy it. So I would say it to myself in the mirror, in the sauna,
Yeah.
wherever I was, I run a six-figure business. But it just helped me to step into that action taking zone of this is what I want, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And mindset's such a roller coaster. Like not every day do you wake up and think, yes, I run this business, it's amazing. Like there are challenges and things go wrong, but like honestly getting some support around the mindset. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but in the summer of 2022 I did a positive psychology coaching certification, because I saw not only for myself the benefit that that will give, but a lot of my clients are like me, where they've got the skills or I'm giving them a marketing strategy, but then there's this thing that gets in the way, and it's
Yep.
ourselves and our mindset. So I really wanted to be able to blend that with marketing to help other people as well. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got some support with your internal work or your mindset, it's something to seriously look into, because it will unlock so much more confidence and that motivation and purpose to carry yourself forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because I had a conversation with somebody recently and she said to me as well, she's like, my business is ready to grow, but I realized I'm not ready.
Yes. Oh my
So
God.
it's getting to that realization where you're like, everything is there, the foundations, everything is there, but I'm not ready. And then
Yeah.
investing in yourself and getting over all of those niggly things and imposter syndrome and heavens know
Oh
what
yeah.
else, all of those blocks.
And it's new level, new devil. That never stops. So
Oh
even then when
gosh,
you've
it
hit one
never
milestone,
stops.
yeah, there's something else that will come up. So it's really interesting to me, like that personal
Yeah.
development journey alongside like actually understanding finances. I'm a limited company now and all of that. So you can learn that stuff, but the mindset thing is so
Yeah.
integral to everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also this is the beauty, and this is something that I shared here on the podcast before, but I'll mention it again. You know, I think we all have this kind of idea, especially coming from corporate, because let's
Mm.
face it, we've been put in a little cube when we're in corporate, and this is kind of like what we think we have to do again when we start our own business.
Yeah.
With that kind of mindset, we then go, oh, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to have this company. It's going to be great. It's going to help me financially. And it's going to be this thing that I'm going to be proud of. But actually, what nobody teaches us is that when you sign up to have a business, you actually sign up for a lot of self-development.
Yeah. It's probably 90% of it is self-development. I feel like seriously, without that, none of what's happened to me, like the good stuff, would have happened. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you haven't done any personal development or worked on mindset, that's your
Start with that.
homework. Yes, for sure.
Start with that. Don't worry about all the marketing strategies. Start
Yeah,
with the
that'll fall into
self-development
place.
first.
Yeah.
The marketing and all those things will kind of follow at the end anyway, because if you go through that self-development, you learn more about you, what it is
Mhm.
you like, what it is you don't like, what are your skills, what are your strengths, and then all of this other stuff just start falling in place almost.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
so funny you say about the strengths, because like I love strength psychology, which is a part of positive psychology as well. But money will only motivate you so far, and it's weird to say, but when I added up on my calculator on my phone that I'd turned over six figures, I was like, huh, and it was 106,711 pounds or something like that. And when I saw it, after all those other affirmations of I run six-figure business, I was like, huh. okay. And then just looked at the next goal. It was really strange. Like I didn't really feel anything. Like there was no glitter cannon that went off or anything like that. Just me going, all right, I did it. Okay, what's next? And, that actually isn't that motivating, I find, like tapping into what you care about and why you're running the business and your mission and your purpose, which doesn't need to be to change the world, by the way. Like I'm not here to impact a million women or solve world hunger. I'm here to create something that helps other entrepreneurs and ultimately provides me and my family with a lifestyle that we enjoy and benefit from. So
it's so funny that you said that, because I had the same experience. It's like, oh my gosh, look at the figure.
Did it.
Okay. Did it. Move on. No cannons, no balloons, no champagne corks popping everywhere. And that's kind of like the thing we think is going to happen. But then you're like, okay, move on. Next thing.
Yeah. Well, what do I do next?
What do I do next?
I don't know. Yeah. I didn't feel excited by that, actually. So,
but it just shows, again, this kind of concept idea we have about what it is or what it would be like to achieve this. And when you get there, you go like, oh, but again, it is just a financial goal.
Yeah.
When I got to a financial goal like that, I was more like, wow, look at actually all the other stuff that I've achieved during this time. And I think those are the things that are the driving force. The financial goal obviously will follow, but the driving force behind what you do is, like you said, supporting your clients, getting out there, helping people, have great conversations.
And you need both. Like part of your marketing strategy should have finances behind it, because there should be something that you're working towards, and your offers and the price of those offers should be strategically thought out so that you can hit the goals that you need to get, and you're thinking about your tax and all of your expenses and all of that. So marketing strategy does include finances, but as a sole motivating factor, it has its limits for sure.
Yeah, it does. One of the other things that I want to talk about a little bit is, you mentioned that you obviously work 20-hour weeks. And I think for some of us, that's just, again, mind blowing. Oh my gosh, that's like, if you only work over 5 days, that's only like 4 hours a day, give or take. And some of us would think, but how's that even possible? There's so much that I need to do. I see so many clients, or I've got all of these things that I need to do. What does 20-hour week, a 20-hour week look like for you?
I'm so glad you asked, because I mentioned already that I use Toggle to time track everything. So I can give you a breakdown number by number if you like. But generally, like one of the key things I want your listeners to take away is, to hit any kind of goal, you've got to have your marketing in place. So out of my 20 hours a week, a third of my time is spent on my marketing. So by marketing, I mean, it's, creating my email newsletter, updating my website, running masterclasses, going on podcasts. So all of this is part of my marketing, the time that I spend on marketing. And I've got a direct correlation between the time I spend on marketing dropping off and my revenue dropping off. So I know that if I'm dipping below 30% or a third of my time on my marketing, stuff's going to happen. Bad stuff's going to happen down the line. It needs to be there consistently. On top of that, probably another 10% of my time. So marketing and sales, 10% on sales. So when I talk about sales, I mean, it's either following up with people that are potential leads, having sales conversations, so discovery calls, sales calls, updating my lead tracker. So I'm on it like a car bonnet with my marketing and my sales. So 40% of my time on that activity. Now you might think, well, where on earth do you find the time for client work? Because I still do like done for you client work or one-to-one client work. It's not all like online courses or passive income. In fact, I don't have any truly passive income. Like the semi-passive stuff is my groups, but they're not, it still takes time and energy to run them. So a third of my time generally is dedicated to clients. So that would be having like calls with clients, supporting them to deliver their marketing strategy or their email campaigns or whatever it is that we're working on. So that doesn't leave much time for faffing. If you're adding this up, so that's already 70% of my time on my own marketing and sales or clients. So that's leaving 30% that's left. So I spend around 6% of my time on personal development. So this would be like upskilling myself. So learning from mentors or coaches that I've mentioned. Teeny weeny 3% is on admin, which is probably still too high, to be fair. So I need to be figuring out what am I doing that I could be outsourcing. And then there's like the extra little bit of buffer. So I mentioned to you before we started this podcast, I've written a book this year as well that came out earlier this month. And, you know, genuinely, I didn't have time to write that book. So I think, well, how on earth did I find the time? Well, I had to swap out some of the other activities for writing. And I share this because if you are listening to this and you've got something like you want to write a book or launch a podcast or, you know, run your first ever in-person event or create a new offer, to be able to do that on top of everything else, you either got two choices. You have to work more hours or you have to cut something so that you've got the time to do it. And I
Yes.
can't work more hours. I've had to cut some time. So it's about getting really organized with where your time's going. And I have to physically put things in my calendar in time blocks. Otherwise, yeah, you got your hand up as well. Otherwise, it doesn't happen, you know? So time blocking is really important for me. I feel like I've just given you a lot there. Is there anything you want to dive into in more
No,
detail on?
it's brilliant. I mean, first of all, the one thing that stood out for me is how you kind of like, how can I say this? The amount of time you spend on marketing, a third of your time
Yeah.
is spent on marketing.
Most
Never thought
non-marketers
about it
don't
in that
spend that
way.
much time.
No,
Yeah.
no, I never thought about it in this way. I know what it is that I have to do on my marketing, but I never thought about it in those kind of brackets about how much time I'm spending on marketing.
Yeah.
I know what is happening in my calendar. And trust me, my calendar looks like a Christmas tree because everything is color coded and there's
Same.
always something happening. But it's exactly like you said, if it's not on my calendar, I won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
one of the things I've stopped doing is ban post-its from my office. I'm only allowed to have no more than 2 post-its on my desk. And it's
Okay,
only for
love it.
little things that I remember. Those things, they then need to go into the calendar by the end of the day. Otherwise, the post-it
Yeah,
goes in
it
the bin
doesn't
and I don't
happen.
do it.
I have
Um,
Asana as well. I don't know if you use that. I've got my calendar, which is all the time blocks, and Asana for every single task.
yeah, it works.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, any tool that helps you in order to kind of just enable you to do things and plan accordingly is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the number one thing for me personally, and I'm not quite sure if this is the same for the audience, but that third of your time needs to be spent on marketing.
Yeah, that's what
And
brings the money in, basically. So you're not going to get that goal if you don't
I know,
do the work to bring in the clients.
I know. And let's face it, it doesn't include being on social media.
No. So do you know what I didn't mention there also was like doing loads of social media and also answering my emails. So like if you email me, you don't normally get a reply. But do you know what? Like I don't think anybody's ever made 6 figures from answering all of their emails.
Yeah.
Like I definitely don't. So I do get my VA will clean my inbox and star things that I've got to respond to. But one of the ways that I managed to get so much done in a short working day, you know, because by the time I get to my office, it's probably like 10 o'clock after the school run and I've drove here and all that jazz. Got to leave at 2:30 for school pickup. So it's really short day.
Yeah.
So it needs to count. But the minute that you start your day by opening your inbox or your messages and responding to them, you're giving your power over your time to your inbox or the people that are making demands of you. So I
Yeah.
will never start the day with my email. I start my day with whatever's first thing on my calendar, which is usually something that's creative, maybe around the marketing. So some creative writing for my email or blog or whatever, or putting together a masterclass to grow my email list. That's done first because in the morning, that's when I'm on fire. It's like I do
Yeah.
my client calls in the afternoon and things where I haven't got to be, you know, producing lots of stuff that will get done in the morning. If I started answering all my emails, I wouldn't be done till lunchtime, and then I wouldn't have done any of my marketing, and it's straight on to client calls. And then, you know, tomorrow you think, well, tomorrow morning I'll do my marketing. Well, spoiler alert, tomorrow never comes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it sounds so familiar because I used to go through a thing like that. Like, oh, let me respond to all these emails and messages and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's exactly that. You're giving your energy away and you're so exhausted come lunchtime anyway. But
Yeah.
if you're
And it's a lot,
creative
isn't it?
first thing in the morning, you actually energize yourself. So that creative energy, kind of like if you think of yourself as a battery, you're recharging yourself. And then you've got enough
Yeah.
energy to see yourself throughout the rest of the day. But if you just constantly give your energy, you're depleting
Yeah.
your own battery, and come lunchtime
Exactly.
you're exhausted.
I like to lie down at lunchtime. So I've got a sofa in my office and I do a little meditation sometimes, just 10 minutes, you know, to
Perfect.
clear the energy,
Yeah.
reconnect, bit of breathing, go out for a walk around the block. 'Cause, like in the afternoon, it's that post bagel slump, isn't it? I love a bagel
Yeah.
for lunch and then I get really
Yeah.
tired. So I do like
Yes.
to have a bit of a reset. And it's funny because when you're really busy, because I am busy and I am sometimes overwhelmed and I've got more things than I will ever have time to do. So I'm just like everybody else. But what can really help to kind of calm and become more productive again is to take the 5 or 10 minutes for a reset. Because I think when you're running around like a headless chicken, responding to all the demands on your time or stressing about the next piece of work to get done, it's actually, you'll be more productive if you just take 10 minutes to reset, refocus, relax, and then get on again. So take breaks. You'll be more productive when you take breaks.
And schedule those breaks in your calendar. So you do
Yes,
them.
I've got lunch in my calendar every day. It's there, 45 minutes. So even though I've got a short day, still got time to eat and lie down. Maybe read a chapter of a book, you know?
Do it. I mean, for me in particular, I take my dog out every single day between lunchtime, depending on the calendar. That is my downtime. That is me connecting with him, going for a nice walk, come back, have lunch. And I don't have lunch in front of my computer. Very important. And it's in my calendar every single day. If it's not there, poor thing will not get a walk that day.
And do you find that when because physical movement is really interesting, the connection between moving your body and creativity, like, do you find when you're moving and going on that walk that you have some great ideas?
Oh, always. I sometimes just take my phone out. It's like, quick note, back in.
Yeah. And the same.
Because otherwise, by the time I get home, I'll forget.
Yes. Oh, it always happens to me either in the swimming pool, and I don't have obviously a phone in the pool, or when I'm driving and I'm trying to dictate stuff to my phone and it never picks it up. So it's like those automatic movements, like driving or swimming. That's when I always have creative flashes.
Exactly.
So
that movement is so important. Yes. Now, you mentioned your book earlier on, and I want to touch upon the book a little bit. What is the title of the book and what is it all about? And then I will make sure that the link to the book is also in the show notes for everybody to go check it out.
Oh, thank you. So it's called Positively Productive, and it's all about how to build a business without it taking over your life, which is really funny because, you know, entrepreneurship, it is all consuming. But what I'm trying to get across with the book is you have more time than you probably realize to actually achieve your dreams and not compromise, you know, the things that you want to get done outside of work. Like, ultimately, we're all running a business for a reason other than to make money, probably. You know, for me, it was about having the quality time with my daughter, but I also want to go to the gym when it's not peak time. So, you know, Tuesday morning and Friday morning, I'm there with all the yummy mummies and the retired people, 9:30 doing the gym class. But I love that. And I think, well, I could be working during this time, but I actually want to, you know, have that space for myself. So it's about that. It blends in some of the smart marketing strategies that I've talked about, but in more practical terms. So actually, what should you be spending your time on? So it's perfect for you if you're running a business and you want to take back control of the business and your time, and also serve yourself a little bit more without, you know, that compromise that we talked about. So that's the nutshell of the book. It was a joy to write, and the feedback has been really positive so far. So I'm really proud to get it out into the world.
Oh, and congratulations for getting it done. I think that's the first thing, because so many of us has got this idea like, one day I'll write a book. Never make time for it. So love all the tips you've given there. But apart from the book, you've got an amazing freebie here for everybody, and it's the 10 hacks to fast track growth in your business.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and what people can kind of get from those 10 hacks.
Okay, so some of them we've chatted around a little bit on this podcast. So if you want that in like a hard format, you can go and download the PDF from my website. So the guide's going to give you like 10 practical things that you can implement right now. They're not, you know, too difficult to do, I promise, and they're going to give you more time back. So save you hours of time, help you to live more, find that time for the self-care or things that are important to you outside of work, and really kind of get unstuck in your business. Because I know what it's like when you've been doing this for a while and you feel like, well, there is no other way, like this is it, I'm grinding it out. It's going to give you that time to pause, reflect, and make some simple but powerful changes. So you can grab that off my website. If you go to cheerupmarketing.com/free, the guide is on there. So if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see it. Yes, that's it.
Amazing. Thank you. And what I'll do as well, I'll put the link in the show notes. So if you didn't catch that link, it'll be in the show notes, so you can just go and connect there and get the guide. And I'm going to have a look at it myself, because again, you never know what you don't know. But in addition to that, you can also go and connect with Kelly throughout her website and her social media. All of those links will be in the show notes. So go and connect with her, follow her around. She's got great advice, great tips. I mean, if you haven't catch anything from this episode today, then, I mean, come on. You have to have at least gotten one golden nugget from today, but also go and have a look at a book. I think, you know, it's a really, investing in books is fantastic and phenomenal. And also learning from people who's already done it, just like Kelly here, you know, it's always an investment. So I always say to people, go and get books, because you are always going to take something from that as well. But oh my
Yes,
gosh,
love it.
Kelly, thank
You.
you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for everything that you shared. I really had quite a few brainwaves as well just through this conversation. So I really
Oh, good.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's been an absolute joy. So go forth and market yourself and be positively productive.